I was sitting at my desk after another long workday when my phone buzzed. It was a message from my sister, Emily. She wrote, "I'm quitting my job. You'll take care of us while I figure things out." I froze. What did she even mean by that? She didn't have kids, just a boyfriend who barely worked. I stared at the message, waiting for her to say she was joking, but she didn't. She was serious. "Tell me, what would you do if your own sister just decided you were her financial backup plan without even asking first?" Emily and I grew up pretty differently. Even though we had the same parents, I was always the responsible one, the planner. I got a job at 16, saved money, and went to college on scholarships. Emily, she was the free spirit. She quit jobs whenever she felt bored, jumped from one relationship to another, and somehow always found someone to bail her out. Mom and Dad used to say, "That's just how she is," as if being irresponsible was part of her charm. After I graduated, got a stable job, and moved into my own place, I didn't mind helping her once in a while. A bit for groceries, a few bucks for rent. It was fine, but over time, those little things started happening more often. She'd call crying about a toxic boss or a crazy landlord, and every time I'd help her get through it. But this text felt different. She wasn't asking for help. She was telling me she'd quit her job and expected me to handle her life for her. I called her right away. "Emily, what do you mean you're quitting? What about your bills?" She sighed dramatically. "I can't do it anymore. My mental health is suffering. I just need a break, and you make enough to help me for a while." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "What about your boyfriend? Can't he help?" I asked. She replied, "He moved out last week. He's done with me." And then she added, "I'll move in with you for a while, just until I get back on my feet." I told her I needed to think about it, but a few days later, she just showed up. 3 suitcases, her cat, and that same carefree attitude. "Hey, sis," she said like everything was normal. I didn't even have time to respond before she dropped her stuff in the guest room and flopped on the couch. "You have no idea how stressful this week's been," she said, scrolling through her phone. I just stood there, stunned. The first few days, I tried to be patient. I thought maybe she'd start looking for jobs or at least help out around the apartment. But no, she slept in until noon, watched TV all day, and ordered takeout using my credit card. When I confronted her, she rolled her eyes and said, "Relax, I'll pay you back once I figure things out." I'd heard that line too many times before. One evening, I came home from work and found her hosting a girls' night. Wine bottles, loud music, 3 of her friends sitting in my living room. I pulled her aside. "Emily, this is my home. You can't just throw parties here." She laughed. "You're so uptight. You never have fun." That was the moment I realized she wasn't just using me. She didn't even respect me. So that's where I was stuck. My sister had moved in, quit her job, and expected me to fund her new break from life. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to stop and think, what would you have done in my place? Would you kick out your own sister or keep supporting her, hoping she'd change? After stewing over it for a few days, I decided enough was enough. I sat her down one morning and told her she had 30 days to find a job and start paying rent. I even wrote out a budget for her to make it easier. She looked at me like I'd just betrayed her. "You're kidding, right? You're my sister. Families help each other." I took a deep breath and said, "Families don't take advantage of each other." That's when she exploded. She started crying, yelling that I didn't care about her, that I was heartless and selfish. She said, "You sound just like my ex. Everyone leaves me." Then she packed her stuff, slammed the door, and left. I sat there in silence, feeling equal parts relieved and guilty. For years, I'd been her safety net, and now that I'd finally cut her off, I wondered if I'd gone too far. But then the texts started, angry ones, manipulative ones. She said I owed her for being the older sibling. She even brought up our parents, claiming they'd be ashamed of me. A week later, Mom called furious. Emily had told her I'd kicked her out onto the street. I explained everything, how she quit her job, how she'd taken my money, how she hadn't lifted a finger for weeks. There was a long pause before Mom sighed and said quietly, "I didn't know it was that bad." Apparently, Emily had conveniently left out those details. Mom told me Emily was back living with her for now, but even she was starting to lose patience. A few months later, Mom admitted she'd told Emily she needed to find her own place too. That was the first time I'd ever heard my mother set a boundary with her. I couldn't help but feel proud of her, and a little hopeful that maybe this time Emily would finally grow up. The last I heard, Emily got a retail job and was renting a small place with a roommate. It wasn't glamorous, but she was finally standing on her own 2 feet. And me, I learned that saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you someone who values their peace. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop letting someone use you as their safety net. So that's my story. My sister quit her job, moved in without asking, and expected me to take care of her until she felt ready to work again. When I finally said no, it blew up our relationship, but in the end, it was the best thing for both of us. What do you think? Was I wrong for setting boundaries with family? Let me know in the comments below. Like this video if you think standing your ground doesn't make you heartless. Subscribe for more real life stories like this, and I'll see you all in the next one.